Hello children, today we have come up with another beautiful video on the chapter Cell for class 8. Yes, irrespective of whether this has been deleted or not, this is the basic of biology, and in class 8 you should know the basic of cell. So today we are going to start with cell. And I'm sure you're aware of who I am, but in case you still have any doubt, I'm Indu Mishra, your science faculty. Children, today we are going to learn about cell structure and function. What is cell? It is the basic structural and functional unit of living organism. We are all made up of cells. Cell is the basic functional and structural unit of life. Who found out about cell? You'll be surprised, cell was discovered even before a proper microscope was made. So Robert Hooke found cells. He actually got cork cells, the bark of a tree, dead cells, and saw it under a self-assembled microscope. Yes, he self-assembled a microscope and saw cells which did look like a honeycomb structure to him. And in Latin, cell means empty room. Cellula or cell means empty room, and that is how Robert Hooke found cell even before a proper microscope was developed. He did this under a self-assembled microscope. Anton van Leeuwenhoek was the first to kind of make the best of what we know as microscope today. So he made the microscope. The first known microscope was made by him, and thus he contributed a lot to the microscopic world. Now you must be thinking, why is the understanding or function of cell so important? Firstly, even if you look at a human organism, you would see that the basic structural and functional unit is cell, and then cells combine to form tissue, tissue combine to form organ, organs form organ system like our digestive system, respiratory system, etc. And all these organ systems form the organism itself. Right, children? So cell combine to form tissue, tissue combine to form organ, organ combine to form organ system, and organ system form organisms. Let's understand, are there organisms which are just made up of cell? I did tell you that we have cell, tissue and other such organizational structures, but are there organisms which are made only of a single cell? Yes. There are single cell organisms known as the unicellular organism. Uni means one and unicellular organism means single celled organism. You have organisms like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, chlamydomonas. All of them are single celled microscopic organisms, right? They do all the performance of the cell activities. That is, these unicellular organisms perform all the life activities on their by themselves. It's just a single cell doing all kinds of life process. Amoeba, chlamydomonas, paramecium are example of unicellular organism. So one basic difference is that they are made of single cell, but they still do all the life process like respiration, ingestion, digestion. All of it is performed by the single cell itself. What about multicellular organism? Multicellular organism like the dog, bird, the trees, they are made of more than one cell. They are made of more than one cell. Now multicellular organisms have many cells. Organisms which are made up of many cells are known as multicellular organism. Different functions are carried by different cells. For example, if you do not understand at the basic level of cell, you must understand that like every organ has a different function to perform. Similarly, cells of multicellular organism perform different functions. Tree animal, birds, dogs, humans are all example of multicellular organisms. Does the shape of a cell depend on the size of the organism? Maybe an elephant has many cells, but does it have bigger cells than a rat? No. Actually, the size of the animal does not define the size or shape of the cell. The size and shape of the cell depends on the function of the cell. The function that the cell performs defines the size and shape of the cell. Let's look into it. Okay, before we go into that, let's have some interesting knowledge of the biggest unicellular thing that we see around us. So the biggest unicellular animal cell, unicell or animal cell that we see is an ostrich egg, right? There are plant cells also which are magnificently bigger in size. Then you have the longest cell, that is the neuron or the nerve cell as we know about it, right? So we have cells measuring in various ranges from micrometers to even big as 10⁶ meters. So cell size is of various kinds depending on the function that they are performing. Let's look at a single cell organism, amoeba. I like amoeba because it does not have a particular shape, right? It can assume the shape according to the function it needs to perform, right? So it is an irregular shape. Amoeba has irregular shape. It has finger-like projections called the pseudopodia. Pseudopodia are also known as false feet. So amoeba makes false feet to grab the food in its vicinity. So yes, amoeba is a single-celled organism that does every function on its own. White blood cells. So now in amoeba we came to know that it is an irregular shape cell, right? It is a single cell organism which does not have a particular shape. What about our WBC or white blood cell, the soldier of our body? The white blood cell also have irregular shape. Amoeba has irregular shape so that it can, produce pseudopodia and have its food. But why does WBC or white blood cell have irregular shape? They have irregular shape to eat up or kill bacteria which enter the blood. They are the soldiers of the body who fight the germ or the foreign bodies that enter our bloodstream, and for that they need to have irregular shape. Muscle cells. These are cells which have spindle shape. They have spindle shape. And the RBC, red blood cell, has a disc shape or a biconcave shape. All this shape is for the function that they perform. The necessity is according to the function that they perform. Nerve cell is the longest cell in a human body. Nerve cell is the longest cell in any multicellular body, I would say. But yes, human body, nerve cell is the longest and it is a branched cell for the function that it performs. Now let's learn about the basic structure of a cell. You will get more videos on the cell organelle and other internal structures of the cell. For today, in this video, we will only look at the peripheral or the main basic components of a cell. Let's begin with the outer covering of the cell, which is known as the cell membrane. Cell membrane is the outer covering of a cell, right? So it is also known as plasma membrane. बच्चों, सेल के बाहर एक पतली सी कवर है जिसको हम प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन या सेल मेम्ब्रेन कहते हैं, राइट? दिस प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन इज लिविंग, इज थिन, इज पोरस, elastic and selectively permeable. जैसे दरवाजे के की होल से देखकर आप जब अकेले होते हैं घर पे, आप डिसाइड करते हैं कि इसके लिए दरवाजा खोलना है या नहीं, वैसे ही एक प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन selectively permeable है. It will select who it should allow to come inside the cell or leave the cell. So we say it is thin, it is porous, it is elastic, and it is selectively permeable. This word has its own importance. It's a key word. So if you write about plasma membrane, do use this word in your answer. So this is the outer cover present in both animal and plant cell. What is the function of a cell membrane? You just learned that the outermost covering of a normal cell is known as the cell membrane. Let's find out what are its functions. It gives shape to the cell. Like the walls of a room give the shape to the room, that is how the shape to the cell is given by the plasma membrane. It maintains individuality of the cell. इसका क्या मतलब है? जैसे एक कमरे और दूसरे कमरे के बीच में एक दीवार खड़ी रहती है, उस कमरे का सामान यहाँ पर इतनी आसानी से नहीं आ सकता, वैसे ही एक सेल को दूसरे सेल से अलग करती है ये प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन. इट इज सेलेक्टिवली परमिएबल. ये मैंने आपको बताया कि जैसे आप की होल से देख के डिसाइड करते हैं कि दरवाजे के अंदर किसको आने देना है और नहीं, वैसे ही ये भी सेलेक्टिवली परमिएबल है, बिकॉज ऑफ विच इट अलाउज ओनली सेलेक्टेड सब्सटेंस टू एंटर द सेल, और रेस्ट्रिक्ट करता है कई चीज़ों को सेल के अंदर आने से. इट प्रोटेक्ट्स द इंटरनल कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ द सेल. सेल के अंदर बहुत सारे कंपोनेंट्स हैं जिनके बारे में आप आने वाले वीडियोस में पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन इन सारे इंटरनल कंपोनेंट्स को ये सेल मेम्ब्रेन प्रोटेक्ट करके रखता है. प्लांट सेल. अब एनिमल सेल, हम जैसे डेवलप्ड ऑर्गेनिज्म, हमारे लिए आसान है एक जगह से दूसरे जगह मूव करना, अपने आप को प्रोटेक्ट करना, राइट. लेकिन प्लांट सेल में इतनी हाई डेवलप्ड टेंडेंसी नहीं है, इसीलिए प्लांट सेल्स में और कुछ फंगस और कुछ बैक्टीरियल सेल्स में एक आउटर कवर होता है. बच्चों ये देखिए, ये प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन है. प्लांट सेल में इसके बाहर सेल वॉल होता है. ये एक नॉन लिविंग मेम्ब्रेन है. सबसे पहले सेल मेम्ब्रेन आपका आउटर कवर था. एनिमल सेल में सेल वॉल नहीं होता है. ये आउटर कवर सिर्फ प्लांट सेल में है. सेल वॉल इज ओनली प्रेजेंट इन द प्लांट सेल एंड इट इज ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इन सम फंगल सेल्स एंड बैक्टीरियल सेल्स. फंगल सेल्स एंड बैक्टीरियल सेल्स are not as developed as a multicellular animal, and thus the animal cell usually do not have the cell wall. Animal cells do not have cell wall. Only the plant cell, some bacterial cells and fungal cells have the cell wall, right? It is a thick layer outside the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane के बाहर है. अगर ये plasma membrane है, इसके बाहर सेल वॉल है, राइट. तो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन और सेल वॉल, इट इज नॉन लिविंग. प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन लिविंग था, सेल वॉल नॉन लिविंग है, एंड कंप्लीटली परमिएबल, यानी ये किसी चीज को अंदर आने से नहीं रोकता है, ये किसी भी चीज को अंदर आने देता है. इट इज नॉन लिविंग. It is completely permeable. Everything is welcome inside the cell because of the cell wall, and it is found in plant cell and not in animal cells, except for some fungal and bacterial cells. Let's understand the function of a cell wall. Most of it is now understood, but let's go through it once again. It gives shape and rigidity to the plant cell. अगर आपको इसे बहुत ही लेमैन टर्म्स में समझना है, तो अगर प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन श्रिंक हो जाता है, यानी सेल श्रिंक हो जाता है पानी की कमी से या और किसी भी वजह से, तो सेल वॉल इस सेल की शेप को मेंटेन करके रखता है. तो सेल वॉल गिव्स शेप एंड रिजिडिटी टू द प्लांट सेल. प्लांट सेल need protection against variation in temperature कभी गर्मी है, कभी सर्दी है. So this variation of temperature during day and night time as well is very much difficult for plants to handle if the cell wall was absent. High wind speed, atmospheric pressure, and the tough cell wall provides protection to plants. So simple to understand, plant cell needs protection from temperature, they need protection from atmospheric pressure, and all that is provided by the cell wall itself. Cell wall, see, this is the cell membrane which is inside, and the cell wall is outside the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. Let's go through the difference once again. Cell wall is present only in the plant cell and some bacterial cell and fungal cell. Rest of the animal cell do not have cell wall, but cell membrane is present in every cell, irrespective of whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell. Cell membrane is present in every living cell. It exists outside the cell membrane. अंदर क्या है? Cell membrane, और cell membrane के बाहर है cell wall. It exists around the protoplasm of the living cells. ये अभी आपको और विस्तार में मैं समझाऊंगी, पर आप ये समझिए कि वो बेसिक आउटलाइनिंग है किसी भी सेल का. It is thick and permeable layer, यानी सेल वॉल थिक है पर सभी चीजों को अंदर आने देता है. सेल मेम्ब्रेन थिन है लेकिन ये selectively permeable है. Please don't use the word semi-permeable, say selectively permeable, right? Selectively permeable है. It is dead, cell wall is a dead structure and cell membrane is a living structure, right? So cell membrane हर सेल में मिलता है, cell wall सिर्फ plant cell किसी किसी fungal और bacterial cell में पाया जाता है. Cell wall dead part of the plant है और cell membrane डेड नहीं, लिविंग पार्ट है, राइट? सेल वॉल थिक है पर वो सारी चीजों को अंदर आने देता है. इट इज कंप्लीटली परमिएबल, वेयर एज द सेल मेम्ब्रेन इज सेलेक्टिवली परमिएबल, राइट चिल्ड्रन? Now let's understand what is inside the cell. Not all the organelles, but what is the basic structure or the fluid which is there inside the cell. Now look at this cell. If this is the cell and this is the cell membrane, then there is a nucleus at the center. At the center of the cell, you have a nucleus. In plant cell, it can be at the periphery, but this is the nucleus. So the jelly-like substance between the cell membrane, the jelly-like substance between the cell membrane and the nucleus is known as the cytoplasm. Look here children, this is the cytoplasm. Whatever is there, the jelly-like substance present after the nucleus and between the cell membrane is known as the cytoplasm. It is a transparent jelly-like substance present between the cell membrane and the nucleus, right? I meant to highlight it. It is the transparent jelly-like substance present between the cell membrane and the nucleus. What is protoplasm then? There is a jelly-like substance present within the nucleus as well. This is known as nucleoplasm. सेल के अंदर जो है वो साइटोप्लाज्म, न्यूक्लियस के अंदर जो है वो न्यूक्लियोप्लाज्म. अगर आप साइटोप्लाज्म और न्यूक्लियोप्लाज्म दोनों को मिलाकर कंबाइन करके बात करते हैं, देन इट मेक्स द प्रोटोप्लाज्म. द न्यूक्लियस एंड द साइटोप्लाज्म टुगेदर मेक्स अप द प्रोटोप्लाज्म. आई होप नाउ यू अंडरस्टूड the jelly-like substance outside the nucleus but within the cell membrane is the cytoplasm, and if you include the jelly-like substance inside the nucleus as well, then it would be known as the protoplasm. Nucleus, as I told you, at the center of the cell. In animal cell it is at the center, in the plant cell it will be at the peripheral side of the plant cell. So this nucleus is the brain of the cell, the brain of the cell. Nucleus is called the brain of the cell. The functions of the nucleus are transmission of characteristic from one generation to another. ये आपकी बुआ घर आती है, मौसी घर आती है, तो कहती है ना, अरे ये तो इसकी आंखें तो बिल्कुल पापा जैसी है, नाक बिल्कुल मम्मी जैसी है. Yes, and so these characteristics that you inherit from your parents is because of the nucleus. Nucleus has chromosomes on which you have DNA, and that is how the characteristic is transferred from one generation to another. Nucleus also controls all the life functions taking place inside the cell. Because it is the brain of the cell, it controls all the life functions that are taking place inside the cell. तो अगली बार अगर कोई कहे कि आप बिल्कुल अपने पेरेंट्स जैसे दिख रहे हैं या कुछ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स आपके मम्मी जैसे हैं, कुछ पापा जैसे हैं, you can easily understand that the nucleus has done its work. Let's understand more about what is inside the nucleus. Nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane is the outermost enclosing structure. ये जो बाहर का part है, the outermost enclosing structure is called the nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane surrounds the nucleus and separates it from the rest of the cell. Nucleus को enclose करके रखता है nuclear membrane. उसके अंदर जो jelly like substance है, jelly like substance within the nuclear membrane covering the whole nucleus is known as the nucleoplasm. उसके अंदर एक छोटा सा न्यूक्लियोलस होता है. यहाँ जो आप इसे देख रहे हैं ये इन अ सर्कल में न्यूक्लियोलस एक स्मॉल स्पेरिकल नॉन मेम्ब्रेन बाउंड बॉडी प्रेजेंट इन द न्यूक्लियस, यानी उसके पास चारों तरफ कोई एनक्लोजिंग मेम्ब्रेन नहीं है, उसे हम न्यूक्लियोलस कहते हैं. क्रोमोसोम्स, यही ये सीक्रेट है जो आपको आपके पेरेंट्स के कैरेक्टरिस्टिक से मैच करवाता है. क्रोमोसोम्स थ्रेड लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स प्रेजेंट इन द न्यूक्लियस. इन पे डीएनए होता है एंड डीएनए इज कैरिंग द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स फ्रॉम द पेरेंट्स टू द चाइल्ड. Right? So nucleus is the brain of the cell which has a nucleus membrane, nucleoplasm, nucleolus, and it also has chromatin thread-like material which condenses to form chromosomes, and chromosomes have DNA which carry the genetic material from your parents to you. That's all for today, children, because this is just the basic video on cell. I'm sure you must have understood the basic characteristics of the cell and many of your questions would have been answered. If you like the video, please do like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.